Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I'm back with probably some more very unpopular things to say. Again, these are just my opinions, and these are just my beliefs. It doesn't make me right. It doesn't make anybody else wrong. What I say doesn't prove anything, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I want to weigh in on my perspective and at least let my voice be heard in a time where I don't think enough people are speaking up when they should be, and it's perpetuating a very destructive narrative in our country and across the world, but primarily in the United States. It's very destructive to us to continue to perpetuate this nonsense and this propaganda and these lies and this agenda, this orchestrated division of our culture and our society, and the very systematic approach of dividing this country and forcing us to choose a side as if one side's right and one side's wrong. And it allows the media and the government to tyrannically rule over us, because it leads the media is just on a runaway train of nonsense, and this is insane. We've reached a point of insanity, and not enough people are speaking up, and not enough people are doing anything. And when I say not doing anything, I mean, let's just get right to it with these riots. What the hell is happening right now? What are we doing? Why are we rioting? What purpose does this serve? Have we not been through this? Have we not been down this road? When you're rioting, when you're throwing bricks through buildings, when you're graffiti spray painting buildings, and you're lighting structures on fire, and you're attacking, police officers and their units. I mean, I saw a guy unconscious on the ground. A police car pulled up to check on this man, and his squad car was swarmed. They broke his windows out. They beat the crap out of his car, and he stormed off. He drove off. He stopped to help a man that was unconscious on the ground, and he was attacked by a mob. So now you're not going to get any help from the people that are supposed to be protecting and serving. You're not going to get medical. What EMS, what fire department, what medical EMS ambulance is going to come to you and try to help you in a mob? It's not going to happen. Police aren't going to come help you. Now you're the enemy. You've basically started enough structure fire. You started enough chaos. You beat the crap out of these police cars. You've looted these buildings. How are they going to come help innocent people? It's impossible. The police are not the enemy. The institution is the enemy. This is pure chaos, and this is pure insanity. Have we not learned anything? I mean, I'm by no means a history buff, and by no means do I understand everything. But I understand that riots serve no purpose in this. None. And the longer you riot, the more you burn, the more you damage, the more you add credence to a stereotype that softens the memory of what happened to George Floyd, because his story was hot for 30 seconds in the media, but the riots have been hot for days, because now the reports are on the riots. They're not talking about justice for George Floyd. They're talking about the riots on the news. So you're playing right into their hands. This is what they want, just so you know. They don't care about these businesses. They don't care about these structures. They don't care about that. They care about getting as much videotape of particularly young Black America destroying property and going crazy. They want to soften the blow to the general public on the news channel. They want to soften the blow of Can you see this group of people? Look at these animals. Look at these monsters. Can you imagine trying to be a police officer in this community? How stressful and difficult this job is, dealing with all these criminals and these crooks and these lunatics and these animals. The media is trying to subhumanize, I don't even know if that's a word, they're trying to subhumanize Black America. And these riots are writing the script for it. White people don't even have to say anything. They just have to show videotape now. Do you see why this black man was killed? Because these people are monsters and they're animals and they're not human. That's what they want. That's what they want. Hello, wake up. Can you not see that? They want you to be out there acting a fool. This is what they want from Black America. And I'm a white person. I'm not pretending to know what it's like to be black. And it makes me sick when people, particularly white people, act like they know what it's like to be black or have any sort of brown skin. They have no idea. So I'm not pretending like I know what it's like to be black. But from the perspective that I'm sitting in, I'm telling you, this is what mainstream America wants. They want to group black people in this court of public opinion, this narrative that black people are animals and they're monsters and they're criminals and they're crooks and they need to be caged animals. And the more people you show on TV, the more burning buildings, the more rocks thrown through windshields, the more police cars you destroy. You're just giving it to them. You're just handing it over to them. You're just giving them evidence to support their claim that you're animals. You're not. Stop giving them this ammunition. Please stop giving them this ammunition. I see through it. I understand the frustration. I can't even fairly say that because I don't understand the frustration. I have no idea. I have no idea what it's like. But what I'm telling you is, on television, on social media, they're making Black America out to be monsters and animals. And that's what they want. They want the white community to feel sorry for these cops and somehow psychologically justify why these cops behave this way. Because you watch a 3 or 4 minute clip of a man dying, and then you watch days and days of people acting a fool. And then over the course of the several days, people are kind of like, oh yeah, well, you know what? Maybe these people are crazy. Maybe they're monsters. I can't imagine having to do this officer's job. He's probably just had enough of this shit. And these people. And yeah, no, it's probably unfair that this man died. But I understand why three of them were holding this guy down. Because if they would have let him up, he obviously is just a menace to society and he's a danger. So I understand why they held him down. Bam, your argument is now null and void. Because the media has had time to finesse the narrative for days and days and days and days. 100% I agree that there should be no peace until there's justice. But there is a way to have civil disobedience and civil unrest without creating a narrative that perpetuates a stereotype. And I wish that this blind spot to this community, particularly young people, it's a blind spot. You have to understand, the media, the public, the government, they're playing chess while you're playing checkers, and you're playing right into their hands. They're collecting as much information as they can, and it's coming from everywhere. Every news station, live feeds from people's, Facebook and YouTube, and it's everywhere. And it's discrediting what needs to happen, which is justice, which is this nonsense has to stop. And you're allowing the media, the mainstream media, to finesse the narrative. And you're playing right into their hands. And I can't stand it. I hate it. I hate it. Because it's taking away from the message of what needs to happen. I need to understand. I'm fired up. And I know my voice doesn't mean anything, and I know what I'm saying doesn't matter to millions of people, but Have we not learned anything? I understand that as far as civil rights go, we've come a long way. We've come a long way. But instances like what happened, this horrendous thing that happened to George Floyd, and it wasn't... I'm not even going to get started on that. This horrendous thing that happened, this man lost his life while he was handcuffed face down. It makes me sick. This instance shows us how far we still have to go. Yes, I understand we've come a long way, but we have so much further to go. And you know, it's been, again, I'm not by any means a history expert, but I know it was, you know, the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s. You know, Rosa Parks said no. She said no. Peacefully said no. She wasn't the first one, she wasn't the only one, but it was enough to get it started. And that was in, I think, 55. Okay? So, not only am I ashamed that we haven't come any further in 65 years than where we are now. Yes, we've made progress in 65 years, but think about that. 65 years has passed. First of all, it's only been 65 years since there was a black and white section on a bus. You need to think about that. Man, how insane that was. Okay? 65 years later, we've come a long way. But when I see what happened to George Floyd, that makes me realize we have a long way to go. And it's not just a black and white thing, it's not a race thing, it's an institution thing. It's a propaganda thing. It's a stereotype thing. It's a narrative thing. It's a political thing. The last thing that the elite of this country want is for us to come together and us to agree. And you're going to have a really hard time convincing people to agree with you and say that you're right while you're looting and burning and destroying property, businesses, buildings, police officers. It's going to be, you want people to stand up. From what I gather, the black community is like, this will never stop until the white community joins in. Right? That's the message we're getting. And I do see white people in these protests. They're sprinkled in there. I see them. But again, the vast majority of white people will not get behind a black movement when the people out in front spearheading the movement are throwing rocks, setting shit on fire. White people will not join that. They will not help you. They won't do it. And I forget what, I don't know if it was a comedian or an actor or somebody I heard said, people don't want to see an angry black man. That is the scariest thing to white people and white culture, is an angry black male. And you need to understand how powerful that is. That is the reason why white America is trying to oppress black America. Because they're afraid. Because they're scared. And black people need to understand how powerful that is. And start using it to their advantage instead of looting and stealing televisions. How can you say, while you're wearing a mask with a hammer in your hand, beating open a cash register at Target in broad daylight, say that you're there for justice? Hey, I'm here for justice for George Floyd, but I'm going to beat this cash register open with a hammer. How can you expect white America to join you? To stand up and say, hey, what happened to George Floyd? It's not right. White America is not going to endorse this. They're never going to endorse it. Do white people need to wake up and understand what's happening in the black community? Abso-fucking-lutely. But this message isn't going to help. I would like to see any one of these people that are throwing rocks, graffiti, setting buildings on fire, assaulting or whatever, destroying police officers' cars and whatever. I would love to see I wish Martin Luther King Jr. himself would tap that person on the shoulder and say, "Excuse me, young man, what are you doing?" And I want to see that person that swears that they're there for justice look MLK Jr. in the face, look him in the eye, and say, "I'm here to demand justice," while he's swinging a hammer at a cash register inside of a Target. Did MLK Jr. die for that? For somebody to have the ability to go into a store that's being looted with a hammer and try and break into a cash register? Is that why Rosa Parks said, "No, I don't comply. I'm not doing it. I refuse"? Is that the memory that these people died for and fought for? And I agree with you. We're not where we're supposed to be. We're not where we're supposed to be. But what are we doing here? MLK Jr. was 26 years old when he was asked to lead the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s. 26 years old. Can you imagine? No, you can't. I can't. Nobody can. Imagine what this man, and many like him, he was not the only one, but many like him, were burdened with carrying the hopes and dreams of an entire people. What he stood for, what he fought for. He didn't fight for your right to set buildings on fire. He didn't fight for your right to beat open a cash register with a hammer. He didn't fight for your right to break into a store and steal televisions. This man wasn't murdered for your ability to act like fools. He was 26 years old. So I don't want to hear this nonsense about these people are too young to understand. These people, oh, these kids, they're kids, they're young, they're 20, 18, 19, 20. It doesn't matter. MLK Jr. was 26 years old. So I beg of you, my call to action for anyone that sees this is to please do not feed this narrative. Do not play into their hands. Do not give these people ammunition to reinforce a stereotype that is largely not true. And if you want people to join you, you're gonna have to do it peacefully. As difficult as that is, as hard as that is, as much restraint and self-control that takes. What's the expression that the true power is, true strength is in restraint? Oh, I'm furious. I'm furious. There are a lot of people out here that are demanding justice, and they are doing the exact opposite of what they're claiming to want is justice for this man. And they're feeding a narrative and an agenda to a much larger ideal and belief system that's counterproductive to what they're saying they stand for. And it's feeding right into the media's hands. And the court of public opinion and all this nonsense is only taking away from the justice that we need to be seeking and the change and reform that we need. The change and reform that we need, that's desperately overdue in this country. There needs to be a call to action in this country. There needs to be a call to action to anyone. Anyone. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. We need to stop allowing evil in our environment, whatever that environment is. There's different perspectives, but there is a very clear difference between what's right and what's wrong. What's right? There's a very clear difference between what is right and what is wrong. There's not a whole lot of gray area between what is right and what is wrong. So I keep hearing that there is, I don't even want to get into it. For this to stop, for our culture to move forward, we have to start doing better. And what I mean by that is before something happens, not after. So if good cops and police in general want to be treated that way, then good cops need to start calling out bad cops. And they can't wait until after something bad happens. Good cops know bad cops. And they got to stop hiding behind this brotherhood bullshit. Because that's not what they swore an oath to. They didn't swear an oath to the thin blue line. They didn't swear an oath to the brotherhood or to the union. They swore an oath to the people. So this brotherhood bullshit, save that. If you want to walk on the wrong side of the law, if you want to be in a gang or a motorcycle club or any of that, that's fine. You can let evil and liars and cheats and thieves and racists and bigots in your group and in your club, and you can allow them to flourish. The police department, the institution, can no longer do that. They have to stop hiding behind this brotherhood. They need to ostracize these bad cops from their brotherhood. They should want that. I know the people want that. They should want that. They swore an oath to protect people. To protect and serve. Not to protect and serve the police union. Not to protect and serve the badge. Not to protect and serve the brotherhood. So if we want this nonsense to stop, good cops have to call out bad cops. Good attorneys have to call out bad attorneys. Good judges have to call out bad judges. Good politicians have to call out bad politicians. That's the end of the story. On the streets, stitches get snitches. Stitches get snitches. On the streets, snitches get stitches. When you swear an oath, you don't get to live by the street code or the code of the street. You don't get that. You're not allowed that. It doesn't matter that you work with these people. It doesn't matter that you know these people. Good cops need to evict bad cops from the brotherhood, from the union. They need to get bad cops off the job and off the streets. We have to stop defending bad behavior. We have to stop defending racists. This whole thing is so sickening. It's only going to get worse. That's the truth. This is only going to get worse. And I hate it. I hate it because you can just see it. See, if you step back and look at it from a distance, you can just see it. You can just see the story unraveling. You can just see the story unfolding, and you can see how the narrative and how this is going to play out in mainstream media. You know, I made a video yesterday, and in that video, I I was watching the local news there in Minneapolis last night, and I was trying to understand what was going on there, because the news channels there are not reporting what's going on the ground. They're in the studio showing you a couple of clips of what's happening outside, but they're not showing the volume of people. They're not showing you all the buildings that are burning. They're not showing you what's really going on. So they're withholding information from you. But I turned this news on to find out what's going on there locally. And I kid you not, somebody, I believe it was from the prosecutor's office, was asked why an arrest hasn't been made. Because they obviously fired this guy, so there's at least some sort of misconduct. Because generally when you're protected by a union, particularly when you're a police officer, it's very difficult to fire someone. Okay? So this man was fired very promptly. So they know he did something wrong. We know that he, based on video evidence, at least partially, if not fully responsible for a man's death. And I kid you not, I believe it was, again, I had to go back and watch the video. I think it was a prosecutor's office was asked by the news station, why hasn't an arrest been made? I kid you not, this man's response was, we haven't even determined the cause of death yet. What planet do we live on? Since when do we need a cause of death to arrest somebody? What does that mean? What does that mean? We need a cause of death? Seriously? What planet are we on right now? A cause of death? What are they hoping for? COVID-19? What? I don't understand. What are they hoping the ME is going to come up with? Just so you know, George Floyd died because he had COVID-19 and a respiratory underlying health condition. So they're digging into his medical records, and they're going to say, oh yeah, well, he died of COVID-19, had an underlying health condition. He went to the hospital back in 2018 for this and that. So he died of asphyxiation because he had an underlying health condition. Is that where this is going? Please don't tell me that's where this is going. Since when do you need a cause of death to arrest somebody that caused someone else's death? If the police get a phone call from a woman in distress from a home saying, my boyfriend's beating me up. The police arrive, the woman's dead, and there's a man standing there. What do you think happens? They arrest the man, right? That's what they do. They arrest the man. They didn't witness anything. They didn't see anything. But they at least have reasonable suspicion, probable cause, that this man likely caused this woman's death. Do they say to this man, hey, we'll talk to you later, let him leave the scene of the crime? Because it is a crime. Do they let him leave while they ship this woman's body off to the ME and find out what the cause of death was, to find out if there's a reason to arrest this man? No! So why in the world would the city of Minneapolis be waiting for a cause of death? A, because they want these riots to go on as long as possible so they can redirect the narrative and create or reinforce this absurd stereotype that black people are subhuman animals that are out of control. So they're trying to perpetuate and let these riots go on as long as possible, get as bad as possible, so people can have some sympathy for this officer. And, oh, how hard his job is, and I can't believe he's got to deal with these people every day. Poor guy. What a poor guy. And they're trying to find a loophole. They're trying to find a way out. They're hoping they can come up with something. And again, it's just it's gonna anger a small percentage of people. But again, if the other people that have been watching riots for days or weeks are gonna get this new information from the ME's office, and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, he had an underlying health condition. Okay, yeah, these people are crazy. These people are animals. I feel sorry for this officer. Boom, narrative's changed. The whole thing's gone. The whole thing's gonna get swept under the rug. Because these people are playing chess, and the people out in the streets throwing rocks are playing checkers. And that's the end of the story. The media is under no obligation to tell you the truth. The media is under no obligation to tell you the story. the media is no under obligation to tell you the whole story. And big shout out to Dan Bongino. He said, and I heard recently, the media is there to tell you a story, not the story. And people need to understand that. So when they're out in the streets acting a fool, they're helping the media write a story. It gives the media an out to not report the story, which should be about a man that was killed in police custody. That's the story. But the riots are letting the media write a different story and report a different story. So they're not reporting the story, they're reporting a story. And we're not allowing them to do it, we're giving them the ammunition to do it. I want change. I want reform. I want a difference made. Please contact me. Please tell me what it is I can do. Please tell me how I can help. I'm willing to help. I want to make change. Do I need to speak louder? Do I need to speak to different platforms? Do I need to physically be somewhere? Do I need to donate to a cause? What is it that I can do to help the black community in this country, the brown community in this country, stop this nonsense? Because I assure you, there are honest, good, hardworking white people that believe in you, that believe this is bullshit, but they will not support violence. They will not support people in the streets acting like fools. They won't support it. So please tell me how we can help. If you're asking us to speak out against injustice, I will speak out as loud and clear as I possibly can. Please, black community, contact me. White community, brown community, Latinos, Latinas. I don't care. Tell me what it is I got to do to get involved because I want to help. But please don't discredit your movement. Please don't shit on your message by acting a fool. And if you're expecting life to be fair, stop being so naive, because that will never happen. And I don't agree with it, but that's the reality of life. Nobody said life was fair. But you need to stop blaming other people for your problems, accept accountability and responsibility for your actions and your behaviors, and you are where you are because of every decision you've ever made. It's nobody else's fault. And yes, I understand a lot of people in this country get a head start because of their color of their skin, their social class, and lots of reasons. Their wealth, their location. There's lots of reasons why people get a head start in this country. But I will say this now, and I will say it again, and I'll say it loud any time it's necessary. The establishment does not want us to come together. The establishment does not want black and brown and white people to come together. That is their biggest fear. And that's why they will show angry black people on television every opportunity they get because it frightens white America. It scares white America. So they will show angry black people every opportunity they get. And like I said, I want people, black people, brown people, to understand the power that they possess. And I understand this system, these institutions are designed to oppress black people. Ooh, and I just said something really unpopular there. And a lot of people are probably going to give me hell about it. But I'm not stupid. I've done my homework. I've done my research. And I understand that black people are oppressed in this country. Do I understand that black people have many, many, many more freedoms than they used to have? Absolutely. But I'm also not stupid. I'm also not naive. Black people get pulled over in this country for driving while black. They get handcuffed for being black. They get questioned for being black. Not because they're guilty, not because they've done anything, for no reason at all. And that is because of decades and decades and decades of conditioning and stereotyping police officers to think black people are criminals and the enemy. And then we get these politicians on television like Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is one of the dirtiest, filthiest, most disgusting human beings I've ever heard of in my entire life. I can't believe this man is still in politics. He's been in politics for over 40 years. He's a liar. He's a liar. You can throw, my beliefs are my beliefs, but even if you don't think he's creepy around women and kids, if you just want to say, oh no, he's just an old fart, he's just a nice guy, he's just touchy-feely, fine, throw all that out the window. He's a liar. He's a deceptive liar. He's a career politician. He is an established liar. He authored the crime bill in the 90s that systematically put black people behind bars and in cages because he's scared. He fears for the establishment that he's a part of. And he knows that as black people grow in numbers and get more organized and demand black families stay together with the absence of drugs being poured into their communities by the government, he sees the strength of the black people. The black community is so powerful, and it's been systematically destroyed by politicians like Joe Biden. And he's running for president, and he's trying to convince you to vote for him because he's a Democrat. And Democrat is allegedly the party that is for brown people, for black people, for minorities, for the less fortunate. These crooked criminals, this DC mafia that orchestrates this nonsense in this country. They want your vote. They want you to keep putting them in power so they can continue to oppress you. So they can keep you in a welfare state because they fear you standing up on your own 2 feet. They fear you opening up your eyes. They fear you investigating their BS. And they fear white, black, and brown people coming together. We have an establishment problem in this country, and we need to address it together. And it needs to be peaceful and responsible. Does that mean it's always going to be peaceful? Does that mean it may not require violence in the future? It may require violence to get our rights back. Or for some people to even get some rights at all. And I say rights, we know we have rights, but you understand what I'm saying. There may come a time where there's a call for violence, but that day is not today. This is not a call to arms. We need reform. And right now, we need peaceful protest. We need information. We need education. And we need to vote career lying politicians out of office. We need to take this country back from the DC mafia and the criminals of this country that are systematically dividing us, destroying the American dream, destroying the American household, destroying the American family. And when I say American family, I don't want people to go off in this weird tangent about it's got to be a man and a woman and nuclear family and 2 kids. I don't care what you consider a family. I don't care. If it's 2 men, 2 women, 4 kids, 8 kids, no kids, I don't care. But the family, the institution of family has been shit on by the institution of government and policy. And the idea that you are getting fed that you can legislate equality. And that's not true. You can't legislate equality. Equality is a social and cultural problem that we need to solve. It's not a government legislation problem that can be solved. There's too many examples out there that legislation does nothing. How's the war on drugs going? How's the war on terror going? The government doesn't know what they're doing. I know it's never going to be my way. I know it's never going to be my way. And there's too many people out there, and there's too many options, and there's too many perspectives, and there's too many people's life stories. There's about 327 million people in this country alone, and we only make up 3 or 4% of the world population. So we're not all going to agree on what the method is. Mother Teresa said that if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. And I hope you understand what that means. Because there's a difference between knowing something and understanding something. And you need to understand what Mother Teresa meant by that. And what she said didn't mean don't go out and protest. She's not saying don't go out and stand up for what you believe in. She's saying if you want to change the world, go home and start with your own home. Start with your own mind. Start with your family. Start by teaching your kids to break these chains. Stop programming your kids that the white man is the oppressor. And white people need to start programming their kids that the black man is evil and dangerous and a monster and an animal and subhuman and violent and angry. We need to stop giving the media this ammunition. We need in each and every household in this country to teach peace and equality, because that's the only way it's going to happen. You can't legislate it. The government can't do it. It's an impossibility. We have to get over this hump. It's been it's been 65 years. 65 years since Rosa Parks said no. It's been over 50 years since MLK Jr. delivered his I Have a Dream speech. It's been over 50 years. That man peacefully made more progress with his protest and his demonstrations and his message. Let's see, make sure I do my math right here. I think he delivered that speech in 63-ish. I don't know what year he was assassinated. I have to know what year he was assassinated. Let me figure this out real quick. I know I hate to keep you guys waiting, but he was assassinated in 68. And that speech was given in 63, so he was asked to be the face of the civil rights movement when he was 26 years old in 1955. 8 years later, he delivered that speech. And then in, what did I say? In 68, he was assassinated, so 5 years after the speech. So 55 to 68. So in 13 years, and actually less than 13 years, in less than 13 years' time, this man and his organization and his message and his leadership sparked more change in America for the black community in 13 years than we've seen in the 52 years since his death. Think about that. We've had a lot of riots. We've had a lot of injustice. We've had a lot of problems since his death. And we've made less progress in that time than we did in the 13 years he was leading the movement. That needs to resonate with people. And he didn't do it with a can of spray paint in his hand. He didn't do it with a torch in his hand. He didn't do it with a hammer in his hand. He did it with a pen and a Bible. And he did it peacefully. And yeah, he was murdered for it. Jesus was murdered for it too. But MLK Jr. changed the world with a Bible and a pen. "26 years old. I can't even imagine. Can you imagine 26 years old, black man from Alabama, from the South? In the 50s, man. In the 50s. You can't even get your head around how frightening it would have been to be black in the 50s in the United States, much less in other parts of the world and other parts of the other parts of history, okay? But we have video evidence and video proof of what it was like. And we obviously don't know everything, but we have some idea. You've seen the images, you've seen the pictures, you've seen the video. Black people hanging from trees, getting hosed down with fire hoses in the street, being spit on, their women and children. I mean, grotesque things that I can't even get my head around that people are capable of happened. And this man changed the world with the pen and a Bible. Before social media, before mainstream media is as it is today. Can you imagine what these people went through? You can't. White people certainly can't. So I'd love for white people to sit down and shut up when it comes to black issues. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to shut up right now. I don't know. Maybe the black community needs to reach out to me and tell me what I need to be doing. Again, I'm asking for guidance because I don't know it all. So please explain to me what I need to do, black community, because I don't understand what it's like to be black. I don't know what you're going through. I see the injustice. I know there's something wrong here. How do we fix it? Because I'm telling you from the white perspective, setting buildings on fire is not the answer. What do we do now? Smart man Zig Ziglar said, I'm going to paraphrase, but Zig Ziglar said, you start from where you are with what you've got. So I can't go back a day, a week, a month, decades, centuries. I can't right those wrongs. But I can accept responsibility, and I forget which president it was, says we have to accept responsibility for our future. We have to put aside our nonsense and our BS and our partisan issues and blah, blah, blah. And we have to start from where we are. We have to take responsibility for our future. So I want to do my part. I want to accept responsibility for where this world is when I leave it. Because if the world doesn't change from the time I enter to the time I leave, then I didn't serve and fulfill my purpose that God put me here to do. And if this is my calling and I'm meant to do something, then please tell me what that is. And if shut up is it, then I'll shut up. But I need to know what are we doing here? How can I help get the message across? How can we prevent this injustice from ever happening again? Because we all know this is wrong. Everybody knows the difference between right and wrong. Oh. Okay, I rambled plenty for today. For now, maybe not even for today. It's still kind of early, but I'm furious, I'm upset, I'm tired. I know other people are furious, upset, and tired, and there's a rage building, as there should be. But we need to play our cards. Play the right card at the right time. And be organized. And we need to use our platform, no matter how big or how small, to scream from the rooftops of how wrong this is. And I hope I didn't, I don't want to offend anybody or hurt anybody, so I hope that's not what has happened here, but I have a lot of feelings and emotions about this, as do many other people, but I need to understand, and sometimes just me talking to this computer helps me understand. It helps me work through these thoughts. And maybe me sharing what I'm thinking will make other people be like, you know what, I'm not alone in this. Maybe this guy feels the way I do. Or you know what, this guy's misguided. I need to explain to him what's going on. So I'm all for the feedback. Somebody explain it to me. Somebody help me understand. Because this is just my worldview. This is just my perspective. I'm one of almost 8 billion people on this planet. And my experience and perspective is completely different from anyone else. We all want answers. I, for one, want justice. In every case. Not just some. Not just the ones that are in the news. Not just the ones that the media deem worthy of reporting on. Because this isn't the only one. This isn't the only circumstance. This isn't the only injustice that's happening right now. And that doesn't mean we have to agree. We need to rethink that in our society, that we don't have to agree. But again, there's plenty of angle here, there's plenty of perspective here, but we all know the difference between right and wrong. And what's happening right now is wrong. What happened to George Floyd is wrong. We should not be putting his family through this. It's that simple. It's that simple. What happened to him is not right. What we're doing right now is not right. This shift in narrative is not right. What his family is going through is not right. His family, his community, his culture should not have to be begging for justice. And that is the core of the blind spot called white privilege that the majority of this country wants to either completely ignore or outright deny. Because if the color of skin would be reversed, this would be a completely different scenario, and that's fucked up. If this was a white family asking for justice for their fallen son or brother or cousin, somebody would be in prison right now, or jail, whatever you want to call it. They wouldn't have to even ask. And that's a huge blind spot for the mainstream media. And the majority of people in this country that don't understand what white privilege looks like. This is it. And again, I will never understand what it's like to have brown skin. I will never understand what it's like to have black skin. I will never know what it's like to operate a vehicle that I've worked for and owned and bought and paid for and insured, or a home, be driving my vehicle down the street and be worried about every single cop I pass or drive by or that gets behind me. I'll never know what that's like to be a suspect all the time. I will never understand that. But that's the reality of the world that we live in. And that's the white privilege blind spot that people don't understand. There's more history in this. Again, I'm not a history buff. I'm not a history expert, but I do know enough to know that light-skinned and dark-skinned people sold dark-skinned people to light-skinned people as slaves. They were shipped over here in boats. They had everything taken from them for a couple generations. Their entire culture was stripped from them. Their clothing, their food, their history, their everything. Do you think as slaves they were allowed to bring their belongings from another country on this boat ride? Do you think that happened? Do you think they were allowed to bring their clothing and their personal items and their history? And no. These slave owners stripped them of their entire culture. So what little culture black people are trying to hold on to that hasn't been stolen from them, white people still want to take it from them. They just won't let it rest. Just like with the Native Americans. Native Americans have very little of what's left of what the United States government allegedly gave them or allowed them to have. And the government systematically has taken that from them. It's on record. It's public knowledge. It's common sense at this point. And people don't see it. People just like, that was a couple generations ago. That was 100 years ago. That was 200 years ago. Get over it. I'm not saying I did. I'm not saying we did. I'm saying a group of people had their culture and their human rights stripped from them at gunpoint under fear of death, violence, rape, murder, anything and everything, because they were overpowered, had their culture stripped from them. They were enslaved, treated as subhuman human beings, as property for generations, centuries. I mean, I've probably gone too far. So like I said when I started this video, I'm probably going to say a bunch of unpopular things. And this video is long, so I'm sure not very many people, if anybody's going to watch it. But where does it stop? Where does it end? Where do we wake up? When are people going to get it? When are people going to get it? Because some people get it. Some people get it. We need more people to get it. And I fear where this is headed. The establishment does not want us to come together. We need to find a way to make that happen. We need to find a way to give them what they don't want. So I'm calling on you, anybody that sees this, reach out to me, contact me, email, message, comment, Facebook, YouTube, I don't care. Reach out to me. Explain to me my role. Define to me what is needed. Is speaking out what I need to be doing? Is shutting up what I need to be doing? What do I do to help this, to solve this problem? Because we have an obvious problem. And what's the good old saying? If you're not part of the problem, or if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. How can I be a part of the solution? Because standing idly by and watching the news isn't enough. Isn't enough. And I want people to know, no matter what color their skin is, no matter what their preferences are, in life, in sex, in politics, in whatever, I will stand with you. I will stand beside you for injustice. This is unjust. This is not right. And this is not about being fair. Life is not meant to be fair. Life will never be fair. So this is not about fairness. You can't make things fair for 327 million people. You certainly can't make things fair for 8 billion people. But we have a system that is designed for blind justice. And I need to understand where that went. Is our judicial system based on the core principle of blind justice or not? Or is this about brotherhood and protecting your own and defending your friend and protecting a union or protecting a public narrative that the police can do no wrong? How many acquittals do we have to see? How many times is somebody going to have to be not charged with a crime? How many times do we have to see this? And I don't mean to laugh because that's a disrespect to his family and his memory. But I don't understand what world we're living in right now. I'm confused. I'm lost. Because the way I understand the Constitution, the way I understand the Bill of Rights, the way I understand what this country's allegedly headed towards, and again, I understand the Founding Fathers were a bunch of rich white dudes that owned slaves. I understand that. I'm not stupid. But there's the letter of the law and there's the essence of the law. And the essence of what the Founding Fathers of this country, they were on track. And it's taken us a long time to get to this point. And again, you have to start from where you are with what you've got. We're headed in the right direction, I think. But then when I see situations like George Floyd, I'm not so sure. But the Constitution, the Bill of Rights is headed in the right direction. No, it's not perfect. And no, it was probably not written by people with the right idea of what the world is going to look like today. But if you read it and apply it to what's happening today, you can simply see that there is injustice happening. So what those words meant a couple hundred years ago, it has changed in context of what it means today, but those principles are very relevant and they're more important today than they've ever been. Because even though the Founding Fathers didn't clearly accept black people and the black community as equals at the time when they wrote it, the principle today stands that we are equal. So they wrote it without that belief, but it encompasses that belief today. So you may not agree with a bunch of rich landowners that own slaves writing this document, but you need to understand the message and how valuable that message is today. And we need to stop shitting on the Constitution. I'm fired up. I gotta get off. I'm gonna hurt too many people's feelings and offend some people. I gotta get out of here. I gotta go. I love you. I will be praying for you. Whether you get it, whether you don't get it, whether you agree or whether you disagree, whether you're throwing rocks or using a hammer to break open a cash register, or you're at home hiding behind a badge saying, yeah, I'd have done it too, or whatever, whoever you are, I will be praying for you. I will be praying for you. So, God bless you.